Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Ethereum. This analysis was a request from one of the followers and I wanted to let you know that anyone can make these requests and I will most likely cover them, especially if there is an actionable trade setup to follow. Now on this chart we actually have quite a simple structure, at least on the large time frame, where this is an initial 1-2 setup and everything formed after this October 2015 low can be considered as part of the larger wave 3 to the upside. Now within this wave 3 we are looking at an impulse where here we have an initial wave 1 up, a wave 2 down, then this would be our third wave up, fourth wave down, and then the fifth wave to the upside. And if we want, we can even check here in the wave 3 we are looking to reach normally the ideal target at the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, which in this case, in this wave 3 it was touched perfectly, before heading into our wave 4 correction. This is a hint for us that we are tracking a likely count, a likely scenario. And it is not to say that this couldn't turn into a different interpretation in the end, into something even more bullish, like something like a series of 1-2 setups in this area, where even this could be a 1-2 setup and then we get into a hyper bullish wave 3 to the upside. But until we get such evidence that it would be the case to be tracking such a pattern, this is a very likely interpretation. This is a very good pattern to be tracking, in my opinion. Now, within this wave 5, we have a couple of options in which we could be looking at this movement to the upside. And we either have the possibility of tracking this movement as an impulse, where we would be looking for 5 wave structures internally within each of the waves 1, 3, and 5. In that case, it isn't a problem. It can be tracked. We don't necessarily have the clearest structure for this pattern in the wave 1, and even in the wave 3 it might look preferable to be tracking this as an ABC. But it is possible for me to track this movement to the upside, this wave 5, as an impulse. But then I also have the possibility of tracking it as a diagonal pattern. As I just mentioned, it is easy for me to be tracking these patterns as an ABC structure. However, in either interpretation, and this is the positive aspect, in either interpretation I am looking for an extremely similar area of support, and I will show you in a moment, but I am looking for an extremely similar area of support in this area, and I am looking for similar movements to the upside, where in both cases I am looking for 2 additional highs. Now, depending on how they unfold, I would end up preferring one scenario or the other, but in both cases I am looking for 2 additional highs before I have a clear wave 5 complete to the upside in this area. And with that said, my probably slightly preferred interpretation is the idea of an impulse forming overall, where this was the 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th, and in the wave 5 we are looking for a 5 wave structure in that case. Now, since it is a 5 wave pattern, we are tracking this choppy movement as an ending diagonal. This clearly cannot be tracked as an impulse. And here I would be looking at an ABC structure in a wave 1, ABC structure in a wave 2, ABC structure in a wave 3, and I'm looking for the ABC structure in the wave 4 correction, where then I would be looking for a 5th wave to form to the upside. And again, within an ABC structure, I was mentioning I'm looking for 2 additional highs. And in the interpretation for the larger ending diagonal, where, well, I would be tracking this as an ABC movement, where in the wave C, I would actually still need to form here, after this 1-2 setup, a 3rd, 4th, and the 5th. Again, 2 additional highs. See, extremely similar counts. Now, in the idea of a larger ending diagonal, in this wave 3 to the upside, I would expect probably further extensions than I would expect what we have here in white in a follow-up wave 5. But in the end, it could be a very small difference. We might get such a movement to the upside that it could work out still within both patterns. And in the end, we shouldn't stress too much about it, because we are going to look for a very similar area of support in this movement. Now, today in the Coinbase video, I was mentioning that I was looking for this as an ABC movement to the upside. I apparently didn't remember exactly this correction, because I was considering this could have been the wave 3 top, but I have checked some of the levels. Now, this is for those of you who have paid attention to what I've been talking there. But if this was the wave 3 top, I would have needed here to hold the 61.8% retracement, at least in a slight manner, where even if we broke below it, I would have liked to see not several candles on the weekly time frame below. And in fact, if I am to even look here to consider this instead as an A wave up and a B wave down here, we can actually see that we pushed perfectly into the 78.6% retracement where we started this reaction. So yeah, this is a much more preferred interpretation. It is apparently not that similar to what we have on the Coinbase chart. And here I do actually have higher expectations to reach a new high for this pattern to be actually working. Now, in the case of having the wave 3 top here and the wave 4 that we are looking in this area, I need to hold the levels of support between the $3,400 all the way down to the $1,900 level at the 61.8% retracement, where breaking here in a sustained manner below the 61.8% retracement would be a signal that this structure is going to fail. So it's not necessarily going to be a big flop directly, but if we fall and trend below it and then retrace higher, well, I wouldn't necessarily be looking for additional highs unless some very, very heavy and convincing evidence might suggest that. I would maybe be looking for an extension in that case, but I would rather be prepared after a relief rally, for example, to retrace even lower, even deeper, where honestly, this wave 4 may still reset in that case. Now, with that said, we are still far from invalidation. We are still far from any signal that this structure is not going to work out. And in that case, we can move on because I wanted to show you the other area of support that we could be tracking, which is extremely similar. And that was for the idea of a larger ABC pattern forming here within the fifth wave, the upside, yeah, an ABC movement where in the wave C we have a 1-2 setup here. Now, as you may notice, in this case, we can allow the retracement to push all the way down to the $1,800 level, and we would have reached so far the 50% retracement, and the area of support would have started a little bit later, but in the end it heavily overlaps. Yeah, we may even get to the 78.6% retracement, but it might be just in a week below the 61.8% retracement, for example. It would be difficult to determine very much a difference within these corrections anyway. And as mentioning, I prefer slightly more the idea of a wave 4 forming in this area. Now, with that said, we can move here into this correction in the wave 4, where I am looking for an ABC structure to be unfolding, ideally, where this would be an A wave down, B wave up, and then a C wave that I would like to see forming here to the downside. And in that case, within the wave C, I am looking to form a 5-wave structure, which, yeah, so far we have gotten here to the 23.6% retracement. We had our initial reaction, then we pushed into the 38.2% retracement right now, and again we have wicked below it. But if you are following this channel regularly, you would know that this is the ideal target in wave 4. Now, it doesn't need to stop there, of course, and in this case I would actually rather expect that it doesn't, so I would be prepared honestly for further extensions to the downside as long as we hold below the relevant resistance levels that I will provide to you in a moment. And yeah, in that case I would be watching for now still for further extensions. This is quite similar with what we are tracking on the Bitcoin chart, and yeah, here we could also be looking if we reach the ideal target for a wave 3 here in the larger wave C, and again perfectly we have pushed to the 138.2% extension. We seem to be on the right track to forming this larger wave C, this larger correction in the wave 4. And in this case, we can be watching out at resistance here for the wave 4 at the levels between the 23.6% retracement, the $2,900 level, all the way up to the 61.8% retracement, the $3,500 level. Yeah, then if we break here above the 61.8% retracement, it would be a signal that this structure might have finished early. We may need to be tracking it as possibly something like a WXY. It might even work actually as an ABC still. Yeah, it would still be a valid interpretation. The main point is I am looking still for further extensions lower as a high probability, as long as we stay here below the area of resistance. Then, if we break above the 61.8% retracement, it is a signal that this structure is done, and we should be watching out even for a possible initial 5-wave move to the upside, which may provide a quite interesting entry opportunity. Now, from a large time frame perspective, we are in the area of support. We are deep enough for the retracement to be full, and yeah, it isn't necessarily recommended to look too much into the short time frame and do the micro counting and all that. But yeah, of course, we want to see some signals. And we can actually even see, so far we have pushed into the first level of resistance. We have found some, but we are still trying to get into it. Still too early to tell what is going to happen. So far, within this structure to the downside, I see a full pattern in the idea of an ending diagonal in this wave Z. I see a full pattern within the wave 3, yeah, an ABC structure, and I am watching closely to see some signals of what is going to happen next, yeah, and in some indications of what structures, what we should be prepared for, and what structures could be forming in this area. But for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.